Hi, I'm Jay, and today on Jay's World Kitchen, we're doing a baked apple dessert. One of my favorite parts of every meal is dessert. I also like apples, and I also like butter, and I also like things that are sweet and rich and creamy and delicious. And this is one of those recipes. This dessert recipe is pretty straightforward, easy to make, and is definitely one of the favorites of many of my friends who come around for dinner. And today I'm going to share it with you. Let's have a look at the ingredients. There are two components to this dessert. The main part of the dessert, the ingredients, are 3 tablespoons of butter, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of milk, 3 eggs, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt, and 4 fresh apples. You're also going to need, for the topping, 1 cup of white sugar, 1/4 cup of butter, and 1 cup of milk. And the one ingredient that's really up to you and how much you add is cinnamon. I'm going to use about a tablespoon, but we'll get to that in a little bit. This recipe is pretty easy to put together. You're going to start off by, in a mixing bowl, putting in your butter, and you're going to cream together your butter and your sugar, just using the back of a wooden spoon. And you're just going to keep creaming it together until it becomes smooth. And when that's mixed together, you're going to start putting in your eggs one at a time. And once all 3 of your eggs are incorporated, we're going to add in the rest of our dry ingredients. So we're going to start off with the flour, salt, and baking powder. And we're going to drizzle our 1/4 cup of milk onto the top and mix that all together to make a nice smooth batter. And once that's all incorporated, we're going to set it aside for just a moment while we prepare our dish. Once our batter has come together, you're going to strain out your apples. Now, I'm using Gala apples. You don't have to. You can use whatever apples are available to you, but I like Gala apples or Fuji apples because they're slightly sweet and they soften up relatively well. You can also use canned pineapples, but I know there's just something about fresh apples. Basically what we did was I peeled them and sliced them into small thin slices, probably about 1/4 of an inch thick. Put them in some water with a tiny bit of lemon juice so they didn't brown. And now I'm ready for them. I've strained them out and I'm going to place them on the bottom of my pan. And you want to sort of get them even and across the bottom, just to cover the whole of the pan. And we're going to sprinkle a little bit of the cinnamon that I talked about earlier on top here. Cinnamon is kind of like a butter thing. You really can't get enough of it in there. And really that's probably about a teaspoon's worth that's just gone in there. And now we're going to put our batter over the top of that. You want to try and spread it out relatively evenly. It's not a huge deal. This is not a perfect science at all. But you do want to make sure that that batter is relatively evenly spread over the whole dish and over the top of the apples. And it's okay if some of that cinnamon gets mixed into that batter as you're doing so. It's all just going to add to the flavor. And if you want to at this point, you can actually also add a touch more cinnamon across the top, which is what I'm going to do, because I do love that combination of apples and cinnamon. I think everyone does. And once that's done, you're going to pop it into a 350-degree oven for about 40 minutes until the top is golden brown. So now, while your dessert is in the oven, we're going to put together the topping. And very, very simple. It's a cup of sugar, quarter cup of butter, and a cup of milk. So we're going to start off by throwing in our milk and putting that on about a medium heat, and add to that your cup of sugar and quarter cup of butter. And we're slowly going to bring that to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, you're going to let it boil for about 5 minutes, and if you time this right, it should have reached the end of its 5 minutes right as you're about to take your dessert out of the oven. And straight out of the oven, you're going to immediately pour over your sauce. And allow that to soak in for just a few minutes before you serve. And there you have it, a nice, warm, wonderful smelling dessert, topped with some fresh cream. You can use whipped cream, you can use ice cream, and the cool thing about this recipe, you can switch your apples for peaches if you want, or whatever fruit you choose. Apples definitely my favorite, and the cinnamon and the cream is just so good. But let's go ahead and taste this. I can't tell you how excited I am for this. This is just one of my favorites. The apple is so strong and flavorful in there, but it's got a very slightly caramel flavor to it. That topping and the cinnamon just mix so perfectly together. You've got to try this. This is by far one of my favorite dessert recipes. And if you do try it, please make sure that you give me a shout. Let me know how it turned out for you and what you did to make it your own. If you enjoyed this episode, please remember to hit the like button and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Remember, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram as well, and you can also support this channel by visiting my Patreon and supporting from as little as $5 a month. Thank you so much for watching, and until next week.